Hey everyone, Michael Purifoy here. Hope you're well. Welcome to our fall 2023 market update. We will dive right in today. So far this year, we've had really mixed results. This data is through the end of October. And sure, it's nice that the S&P 500, which is one measure of large cap stocks in the US, it's nice that it's up almost 11%, but the Dow is not even up 1%. Small cap stocks are down almost 5%, and international stocks are up about 3%. And the average aggregate bond index is down almost 3%. So I think investors who have well allocated, comprehensively put together portfolios with some of these asset classes listed here, probably understandably their patience is being tested because it's been kind of a mixed year this year. There's a lot going on out there. Rumors of wars still going on. There are protests and a lot of uncertainty right now when you flip on the news. And so it's certainly understandable to be concerned about that from an investment standpoint. I love what Ken Burns, who was a documentary film producer, he said, history is medicine. It has nothing to do with the past. It has everything to do with the present. And it's the present. The present is where financial planning really happens. This is a slide we show quite a bit. The main point is that volatility is normal. But we've had a lot of volatility in the last few years. We had a temporary decline of 34% in 2020. We had a temporary decline of 25% in 2021 in the S&P 500 index. But history still shows, going back to 1980, the market has been positive about 3/4 of the time if you factor in the whole year. This index has averaged about 10% annual return, while it's gone down, as evidenced, represented by the red dots. It goes down about 14% annually as well. So nothing new there. This is a great slide that we've not shown in a while. This is a slide from JP Morgan, and the top row is essentially the winning asset class each year. You can see in the top left, the 2008 column, bonds were the top performer at 5%. Down there at the bottom, large cap and international stocks were all down 40 to 50%. On the far right, you can see that large cap stocks are up this year. And but what's most important about this slide is what you can kind of see going through the middle, that black line. It's essentially kind of a conservatively balanced portfolio of different asset classes that are all represented on this page. So essentially, the asset allocation box and the black line that traces through it is essentially a blend of all the asset classes. So essentially, the asset allocated portfolio would have both the winner and the loser in the portfolio each year. But what you note is that while stocks have averaged, this goes back about 15 years, stocks have averaged 7 to 9% during this time frame, the asset allocation portfolio has averaged 6. What's important, in our opinion, is that one, that exceeds inflation. And then two, it exceeds cash, which earned next to nothing during this time frame, and even bonds earned less than 3% on average during this time frame. Now, this data goes back even further. So when we think about an election year coming up next year, when we think about conflict in the Middle East, this data goes back to 1950. So we've got plenty of other conflicts during this time frame, plenty of other elections for sure during this time frame. This is essentially a 73-year approximate period. And what you'll note by the again, there's plenty of good years, but during this time frame. But let's look at the down years, because I think, like I said a minute ago, I think a lot of investors, I think their patience is being tested. This is just simply a portfolio that's 60% large cap U.S. stocks, 40% bonds. And what you'll note is I'll count them for you. There's essentially 8 down years from the late 50s to the early 80s, about a 25-year period. You essentially had 8 down years in a 60-40 portfolio that would be about 60% large cap stocks and 40% bonds. In the last 24 years, you had 6 down years. What's most important, though, is on this next slide, the average return still is in excess of inflation, but it's not without some risk. So here on this slide, we transition, and this is a slightly different portfolio. This is essentially a half stock, half bond portfolio, and this also goes back to 1950. And you can see right there in the middle, this portfolio, it hasn't met or exceeded the return of stocks during this time period, because that was 11%, but it's much higher than bonds at 5.5% during that time frame. So over about a 73-year time frame, the 50-50 portfolio has averaged almost 9%. And while its worst one-year period ever, it was down 15%. It doesn't have a negative rolling 5-year period on if you count everything on a month-to-month basis. So the key here is consistent with what we've said in the past. Portfolios that are going to either get you to retirement or keep you in retirement, they have to exceed inflation. But some risk has to be managed on the downside. In this market update, we are not advocating for a 50-50 portfolio. We're not advocating for a 60-40 portfolio. Do some of our clients have portfolios like that? Sure, but everything's customized for their own individual situation. Lastly, just wrapping up here, I love this quote from Warren Buffett. He said, basically, when you get to my age, you'll really measure your success in life by how many of the people you want to have love you actually do love you. It makes me think about some things we've said before about how, financial health a lot of times is like your physical health. Sometimes you really don't pay attention to it until something's wrong, right? And just like physical health, financial health, when something's wrong, can keep you from really focusing on the things in life that really matter most to us. And so we really think the most important part of financial planning is that it can really act as a foundation so that you can really live your life focused on the things that matter most to you in life. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed today's update. If you have any questions or concerns about anything, shoot us an email, give us a call. We'll be here in the office working, and hope you have a wonderful holiday season with those you love.